Hi, my name is Heidi Easley, and I just want to welcome you to the Accidental Artist, the free online event. And the whole purpose of this event is just to kind of show people that art can enrich your life, even if you're not an artist. And today I have Shauna here, and thank you so much, Shauna, for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And can you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah. Well, my name is Shauna Panczyszyn. Online for a lot of my social media handles, I go by Shauna Parmesan. It was just kind of a high school joke because no one could say my last name.
I was
And
wondering
I've
where that
learned,
came from.
yeah, and I've learned throughout the last few months too that people keep changing it to like other Italian foods, and I'm not Italian at all. I'm Ukrainian, so it's really funny that it's like I think the most recent this weekend was like Shauna Pancetta.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. They were having a lot of fun at the conference this weekend. Um, but I'm a hand lettering artist and illustrator based out of Orlando, Florida, and I've been full time freelancing for about a little over 2 years now. And I have been playing with hand lettering for about 5 years, but it wasn't really until I was a full time freelancer that I just jumped in head first and was doing it 12 hours a day. And just I love it. I'm obsessed with it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah,
So that's been for the past 5 years?
yeah. I started hand lettering a little bit in college, and I didn't really realize it was like something you could do. So it was just something I just did because I could not find a typeface that I liked to use for projects. So I would come up with my own. And then when uh, um, I worked at my internship, they kind of caught on that I loved illustrating before I knew I loved illustrating. And they had me hand letter this poster for an event called The World of Foot. And ultimately, like that ended up fueling the fire just because I just sat there for like 4 days, 9 to 5, drawing these letters and these words, and I just loved it. And ended up it ended up getting into the Communication Arts Typography Annual, and that essentially launched my career. I had a few little gigs here and there, and then in February of 2013, I went freelance full time after I got fired from my job, and
Oh my gosh.
I, yeah, I moved for a job in Orlando, and I'd only been there about 3.5 months, and they fired me with no reason. So it just ended up that I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna job hunt. My parents were sitting there with me, and they're like, no, why don't you just try freelancing for a while? You've wanted to do it. You didn't come here to job hunt. You came down here to work, and I mean, if it doesn't work in 6 months, then go back to job hunting. But I'm here two years later, and I'm still going strong, and I love it. Like I'm not a 9 to 5 person at all. I'm like an 8 to noon, and then like a 3 to whenever I finish. So
Yeah, I bet that works out good too. And you can work from home, which I'm sure you love.
exactly. Oh yeah, it's very nice. Or like I can work from if I go home from to my parents' house, they live about 40 minutes from me. If they need me home for the day to like watch the dogs or something, I can go home and just work from the kitchen table.
Yeah.
So it's very convenient.
Well, can you tell our audience? I know you had just done a big project, and can you talk about that big project and kind of how you were excited and what happened with it?
Yes, I was approached in like September or October, somewhere around that time, by International Delight to do the back two panels of their new, well, not new, it's been around for a while. It was like they were updating the packaging of their iced coffee and chai tea and all this stuff. And it was just like this really fun project because I got to do packaging for about, I think it was about 6 different backs of these cartons that sit in the supermarket. And it was one of those that once I finished, I was like, okay, cool. I'll see this maybe in a few months, and it'll be out there, and that'll be awesome. And I happened to be in Publix about February-ish, and I'm walking around. I'm like, I should see if it's actually out. And I looked, and they had just started transitioning out the old packaging, so there were a few of the new one. And I'm standing at Publix, and I'm like, oh my god, it's out. Oh my god, I'm like sending pictures to my mom and my best friends, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe it's out. then I started getting photos from like my friend's parents and my friend out in California, and like they're all like, "Look what I found! It's out here!" And it was just, it's really fun. And it's really it's kind of surreal to see it out there because it's one of those things that I'm just like, "Oh, cool! Like I did that." You know, it hasn't really hit me that it's like this really big brand that I got to work for.
Yeah.
But it was really awesome. I've got one in my fridge right now, actually, that I still have to photograph for my site.
Yeah, I would never get rid of it. I would just leave it in my fridge. It'd be expired and gross.
My mom had one, and I guess my little sister cleaned it out for her, and then they cut it, so they just have the back two panels.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they're going to display it in the house.
That's awesome. Yeah, you should be so proud. And I mean, that only just, adds to your portfolio and your resume for bigger things.
Yeah, it was a fantastic project. It was really, I mean, on top of it, it was really fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really awesome just to kind of know I did work for this really awesome brand that I've known about since I was a kid.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Shauna, can you tell our audience maybe a favorite book or a favorite quote that kind of helps you or inspires you?
I'm not sure if it's something that like I heard somewhere or it's just kind of like this. It's like a combination of like several quotes in once, but I always kind of go by the mantra of work hard, stay humble, and make great work. I never want to be someone that comes across as having a big ego. I always want to remember my roots and kind of where I'm from. And I mean, I'm one of those people, I just work all the time and it pays off in so many fantastic ways. So I'm a big believer in like working hard. A lot of younger designers, a lot of younger artists don't realize how much work actually goes on behind the scenes because with social media, you only see what we let you see.
Mm-hmm.
And that almost sounds like we've got to veil it, but like how many people really want to listen to me complaining that I'm up at 3 a.m. working? It's one of those things where I'm like, you kind of curate what you put out there, and I'm very, very open on social media, almost sometimes a little too much, but I also, I try not to complain. I try to keep things very positive and very happy so that I never come across as someone who's like complaining that I get to live my life doing what I love. There's there's no negative in that. Like that's so awesome. So, I kind of always just kind of remind myself, work hard, stay humble, and just make great work because ultimately that's the goal. And then as far as like books that I love, I really just like, I have this really big collection of books. I have a bookshelf over here and I've got books right here and I have a stack on my desk and I have a bookshelf here and like, I just love books. But one of the ones that's really just inspiring me lately, I could actually pull it up real quick.
Yeah.
I took a trip to Chicago with my dad and my sister. We went to go visit my grandmother. And we were staying in this hotel that we'd stayed at previously. It was freezing outside. It was like -20 with the wind chill. It was wonderful. And
wonderful.
I'm in Florida. I love the cold. I really do. But my dad was like adamant about us going to this gift shop. He's like, you need to see the gift shop because you don't find Chicago anything in Florida. Like nothing. No Chicago Bears. Nothing. So he's like, you have to see this gift shop. This is where we got your Chicago shirts. And we're like, all right, cool. So we gone to the bar. I had about 2 drinks. I was a little bit tipsy, but I'm walking around here and I'm like, oh, what can I find? And I come across this book. And because I was just a little bit tipsy, I got really excited about it. And I immediately bought it. And the next morning I looked, I'm like, no regrets. I love this. And it was this book called Hot Jazz Special by Johnny Hanna.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this fantastic, I think it's supposed to be like a children's book, honestly, but it's just these really fun designs and patterns and styles and lettering, and I love it. So it's just one of those, and apparently like this actually folds out, the book jacket.
Mm-hmm.
It folds out and it's like a poster inside.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which I will never use because I want to keep it all together, but like this is actually like something that I'm really getting a lot of inspiration from lately, and I love to just look at it. It's just because there's so much to look at. it's one of those things that, like, if I could just sit all day and stare at it, I probably would.
Yeah, well, and books are so inspiring. And I've noticed too, interviewing all of these artists, wonderful artists, that, books are in common. Almost a lot of you have said, you collect books and you're really inspired by books. And also, you mentioned earlier about, like working on your art in the middle of the night. Is that something you do? Because I've noticed other artists, they're like getting up really, really early to work like 2 and 3 in the morning.
I don't get up that early.
You stay up late?
Yeah, I'm one of those, like, I was at a conference this weekend, so I'm still somewhat recovering from that, just because it was a lot of, my schedule got off, like, we were going to bed at 2 a.m., and I had to get up at, like, 6 and 7, and so it was, like, not a lot of sleep.
Right.
So today I woke up at, like, 8. But usually I try to wake up at, like, between about 7 and 7:30, and I get up, I take out my dog, and I get working by about 8 o'clock, 8:30. And then I just work till noon. And then I go across the street and I ice skate, and I just kind of get out any stress
fun.
and energy. Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. But that's like kind of how, like, if I'm really stressed on a project, I'll go across the street and I'll skate, and I'll just kind of clear my mind, and I'll come back ready to work again.
So you're in Florida ice skating during your lunch area.
Yeah, I live across the street from a rink, so it's kind of convenient.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. And when you're out there, you can't think of anything else because you're going to fall. Mm-hmm. So you have to focus on being in the moment out there. And that's, always a good reminder for me, especially with, like, my work, just to try not to think ahead of things and just let it flow as it needs to. Mm-hmm. But I also know, like, my least productive time is about 12 to 3. And even when I'm home, I'll end up sitting on Facebook for 3 hours, and I won't know what happened or when the last 3 hours went, but I'm just not productive then. So I'll come back and I'll start working at 3 o'clock, and I'll work sometimes. If I'm not swamped, I'll work till 5, I'll work till 8, and I'll go sit on the couch and sketch. But otherwise, sometimes if I'm really, swamped with work, I'll just stay up and just keep working until I can't stay awake anymore, which I think 2 o'clock is about my limit right now. I used to be able to stay up till like 5, and I'm realizing that's just not it anymore. I'm 27. I'm really not that old, but it's hitting me more. Mm-hmm. The closer I get to my 30s, the more it's hitting me that, like, you need to have an actual sleep schedule. You can't just, like, my mom always tells me, she's like, you're 27, your body's not recovering like it used to. And I'm like, but that was like 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago, I could have stayed up all night, and now I can't.
Yeah. Well, and it's good that like, this is the time I know I'm not productive, so I might as well go, use that energy and do something fun instead of, like you said, sitting around and just wasting the time. So that's pretty disciplined of you.
Yeah, and I have to be disciplined, because otherwise I'll get nothing done. I mean, I've got my little dog, and he just wants to play all the time, and I can't play with him all the time, but I can set aside like 15 minutes here and there and just step away from the computer and stretch out and cuddle with him. He's sleeping in the studio right down here right now.
So who would I know the book was really inspiring, but do you have any people that inspire you for your artwork or just in life in general?
To be really cliche, my family. They really have just been my ultimate supporters. They are the ones that really did push and encourage me to just try this path and see if it would work. And they've just kind of been behind me the whole way. My mom has, like, things I made, like, in her porcelain cabinet. I'm like, why do you have Post-its in here? She goes, because I want to save them.
Aww.
Okay. But, my family has been a very big inspiration, very big supporter of me, and I can't be more thankful for that. But art-wise, there's so many people that just really inspire me in so many different ways. Art-wise, Johnny Hanna's a big inspiration. Tad Carpenter's a big inspiration. I learned this past weekend he's also a really awesome dude. I got to hang out with him and chat with him. He's very cool to be around. I think like Mary Kate McDevitt's work is fantastic. Jessica Hish's work is fantastic. There's just all these people that I really look up to. I mean, even this past weekend, I got to meet people that I looked up to that I'm not friends with, like Molly Jakes and Jen Museri, and then a girl that I've been in touch with for like 2 years, and we talked via Twitter, and then that moved to private messages, and then that moved to texting, and now it's moved into real life. Her name's Eliza Sodieros. I think I probably butchered it, but she's been someone who's been very supportive of my career as well, and you know, it's reciprocated because she's just an awesome individual. And of course, like all these people, I keep mentioning this conference. I went to Creative South this weekend. It was fantastic, and just everyone involved in that, like Mike Jones, Lenny Terenzi, he's awesome person. Just, I mean, I have a family there. Like, that's the coolest thing. You know, their mantra is come as friends, leave as family, and it's true.
Yeah, and you spoke at that conference, right? Can you talk about kind of what that was about? Actually, first, could you explain for all of us who are unsure what Creative South is, and then kind of tell us about how you spoke at it and what the purpose of it was?
Yeah, sure. Well, Creative South was created a few years ago. I think, don't quote me on this, I think it's like the 4th or 5th year. And it was created as like kind of a spin-off of the Weapons of Mass Creation Fest up in Columbus, Ohio. And it takes place in Columbus, Georgia every year. Or no, Cleveland, Ohio. I'm sorry. I'm getting my cities mixed up. Cleveland, Ohio. This takes place in Columbus, Georgia. And it's this conference that they created, that Mike Jones created with several other people, to just bring creatives together and just inspire people. It's an inspirational conference versus a this is how I do my work conference. Mm-hmm. And I attended last year for the first time as a spectator. And within minutes of arriving, I came with one of my best friends, and within minutes of arriving, she and I had been embraced by like 5 different people. Like there's so rare that there's actually handshakes there. Like people just immediately walk up and hug. Aww. And I just met some of the most amazing people there, and just came out of it just ready to work and ready to just jump in. And back in about September, I got a call from Mike Jones, and he said, "Hey, I was wondering if you would we be willing to..." Sorry, I haven't had coffee yet. He's like, I wanted to know if you'd be willing to come speak at Creative South this year. And I was like, yes, no questions asked. Of course, I would love to. And because I found through talking with a lot of people, like my story is very unique, but there's a lot of people that got into freelance because they got fired. You know, it was just kind of one of those like, well, might as well give it a shot. This must be a sign. Mm-hmm. And so this year I came, and my headphones were slipping off my head.
It's okay.
This year I came, and it was such a different experience, but in such a positive way, because I knew people and I got to interact with a lot of the speakers, and all of us were on the same level. And it was these people I looked up to. Suddenly I'm like, we're all like on the same level. And I'm like, I'm talking to people that I followed for years. What is this? This is awesome. And so I got to hang out with people that I knew from last year, and just had such a fantastic time. And I'm still processing it all because it was just such like, I mean, it was a long weekend, but everything went so fast. Mm-hmm. And the first 2 days I was there, I got in on Wednesday. So Wednesday and Thursday it was very nice and quiet for me, because I was still somewhat in anonymity. Like people knew my work, but they hadn't put the face to it yet. So it was kind of nice, like stepping back and watching the local design chapter here for University of Central Florida. Those kids all know me, and they all like came up and they're like, we're so excited to see you. You're the reason we came to see this. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, don't put that pressure on me. Like, but they're like, we feel bad. We're fangirling. And I'm like, just calm down. It's okay. You've met me before. No big deal. Like, but it was just really fun. It was kind of funny too, watching people that like chatted with me at the opening night party react after they realized that I was a speaker. Like they didn't know. And I wasn't gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm a speaker. You know, it was just if they ask like, so what are you doing here? I'd be like, well, I'm speaking. I was invited to come speak. But I wasn't gonna be like, hi, I'm Shauna, I'm a speaker,
Right.
Humbleness. And granted, I was really excited, but I also was I'm an extroverted introvert. That's, it's gonna take me about a week to recover from this because I've just been so crazy extroverted for 5 days. But I don't like to draw attention to myself. So I tend to kind of hang back and just chat with people I know and kind of just, keep it quiet, keep it calm. And the next day, like after I'd spoken, people came up to me and they're like, I had no idea you were a speaker. Oh my God, I'm such a huge fan of your work. And I'm like, okay. I'm the same person you talked to yesterday. There's nothing different here. Like the only difference is I was on stage. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal. But I'm like, it's no different than I'm the same person.
Yeah.
But it was pretty mind blowing to step out there because I was backstage. I was kind of preparing myself, and I'd spoken in about 3 other conferences before, very small ones. And this is the largest one I've ever spoken at. There were probably 200 people in the audience, which thankfully I could not see everybody because the lights were dimmed. I could see probably about 5 rows back, and the first 5 rows were filled with people I knew because they're fantastic. And it's just seeing people I knew made it so much easier for me to let go and just talk. And
did you talk about like your story of how you became an artist, kind of how you got fired and then started?
Yeah, it was, I kind of covered, it was kind of funny. I covered from like age 3 to now and just kind of what I've done to keep myself motivated and excited to work. Because I had my mom takes credit for my art career in the sense that when I was 3, she caught me drawing on the wall with a Sharpie. And rather than yelling at me, she said, this is beautiful, but you know what would have been better? If you put it on paper so that I could keep it. But tell me about it. And she, to this day, she's like, if I yelled at you, you wouldn't have been doing this. And then, of course, and she asked me, like, she was filming, tell me about the conference. How was it? And she goes, did you show your first mural? Did you show your 3-year-old Sharpie piece? I said, yeah. She goes, if I had yelled at you, you wouldn't be doing that. I'm like, I told her, I was like, I said that on stage. She goes, good, because it's true. And but art's always been in my life. My parents were very supportive of it. My dad, he would draw growing up. He was very artistic growing up. He ultimately ended up being a dentist, and those skills actually do come into factor there. But like he did art. My grandfather, he didn't necessarily do art, but he built things. He was a heart surgeon, and then he'd come home and he would build things.
Oh,
like
wow.
We had Barbie cars when we were little that you'd buy like through Toys R Us. My grandpa built my uncle and my dad a Batmobile from scratch.
Awesome.
So they had like this mini Batmobile, like we would have the Barbie cars that they drive down the road. And I've seen videos. It's legit. But like he took it was neat. He took a motor out of something. I think he had a friend at a car dealership who was able to get him a motor of some kind. Like it was pretty much a car just for kids.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. My dad, one time we were in the backyard and we were like, can you build us a Flintstone car? We were like, oh, he ain't gonna do it. And like 2 hours later, he had a Flintstone car. I was like, awesome, Dad.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it was kind of funny because my sister wanted a treehouse in her room one time. And so my dad went out, he got all the materials. Like he built this 2-story treehouse where she could sit on the floor, she could climb up a ladder and get into it on top, and she wanted it for like 24 hours, and she's like, okay, I'm over it. My dad was like, oh, no, you're keeping this up for a while.
Yeah,
this took a long time.
Oh, well, that sounds cool, the Creative South thing. I'm so glad it went well. That's really good.
It was so nice. It was just fun. Like they have this thing called Live Type Fight where they bring in an actual boxing ring, and they set up a table, and you battle another person, and you each draw out the same letter, and then people vote on the best of the 2 letters.
What?
Yeah, it's called Type Fight. So like I had the letter Z, and my opponent also had the letter Z. So it was me and one other girl going up against each other, and we were just sitting at a table facing each other, and we each did our own rendition of the letter Z. And then they put it up
so
on
you're
the
not
website.
actually boxing.
No.
Okay, I was
but
like, this artist
Tight Fight-
conference. Okay.
No, because it's called Tight Fight. They're like, we're going to put you in an actual boxing ring. Like, they even have, like, the bell, and they're like, ding!
That's cool.
It's fantastic. And then, like, they try to get people to heckle them. And last year I took the Ultimate Championship. I won the overall event. And so this year I did it again because I was like, I need to defend my championship here. So, like, the worst I did heckling-wise, like, I'm not good at it. But you get 1 hour to do it. So about 30 minutes in, I was almost done with my letter. And, I mean, I do this every day for a living. So for me, like, knocking out a letter doesn't take all that long. Mm-hmm. And so the last 30 minutes were spent just, like, tweaking and adding texture and making it pretty. But at one point, they're all like, there's 6 of us in the ring. We were the last ones of the day. And they're all, like, trying to heckle each other. And I was like, I don't know about y'all, but we still have 30 minutes left, and I'm almost done. And they're like, why? You did that so fast. I'm like, because I'm the champ. So, like, that's about, like, the most heckling I do, because I don't like to be mean to people, and I wish I could heckle. I wish I could, but I can't very well. Like, 2 of the guys, they're the best of friends, and they just lay into each other, and it's the funniest thing, to the point that, like, the one guy took a picture of the guy he was battling. He just turned his computer on and took a picture of him and put him in the background of the letter. Oh. just to heckle him a little bit more. It was hilarious.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and this year I took second, so I can't play.
You didn't defend your championship.
I was really close, but second place won an iPad mini, so, like, I can't complain.
That's good.
Yeah, first place was a Wacom tablet, and, like, I have the Cintiq, so I have the screen I draw on. So, like, I had as much as I wanted to defend my championship, I would have had no need for the prize.
So, do you draw usually on paper, or do you actually draw on a tablet?
I start on paper. I have, like, 5 sketchbooks in progress at any time. They're all different sizes, so it's just whatever I feel comfortable working on that day. But it starts in a sketchbook, and then I'll either do the cheater scan, where I just, like, take a picture with my phone and send it to my computer, mm-hmm. or, like, I'll throw it actually on my scanner, and then I throw it into Photoshop, and then I trace over and I tweak and I make it better. I tighten it up and pull it all together. So with the exception of a few projects, it starts on paper, mm-hmm. and then goes digital.
Okay, so you do your stuff through Photoshop? Is that how you?
Yeah, I don't touch Illustrator. I don't do vector. It's a rare occasion that I use vector. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the work I do is chalk, and it's all done digitally, so it's all fake. But whenever clients want vector, but they want chalk, it's a little bit of a process to explain to them that it doesn't work, mm-hmm. because you lose the texture and the opacities, and it just doesn't look real anymore.
Wow, so on your computer, do you actually use, like, a pen and you're drawing on your computer, or do you use the mouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got one I use.
That's awesome.
In 9th grade, I used a mouse, and I don't know how I did it. Like, I used a standalone tablet for a long time, where, like, you were drawing down here, but you were looking up here, so there was a bit of a disconnect. Mm-hmm. But I've since upgraded to a Cintiq tablet, so I'm drawing right onto the screen, and it made my life so much easier. Like, my work got a lot more accurate.
That's really neat. Okay, so I know you've said a couple stories, but do you have maybe one more story about a project that was really, really cool that you worked on that kind of was special to you? And can you describe why it was so special?
Yes. I had the opportunity last year to co-author a book.
Ooh, tell us.
Yeah, it's called Creative Lettering and Beyond, and it's by Walter Foster Publishing, and it was a continuation of their Creative and Beyond series. They previously had Creative Doodling and Beyond and Creative Illustration and Beyond, and now they have Creative Lettering. And it was 3 other lettering artists and myself were asked to contribute to this book, so we each got a chapter. So I got to cover chalk lettering, and it was kind of at a time where I was starting to sort of doubt whether or not I'd make it, because last year, January through June was just almost dead project-wise. I was lucky to have one a month.
Oh,
And
wow.
even then, they were just very small projects. And then this one came, and I was like, oh, Lord, like, I can't believe that someone wants me to write. Because I never thought, you know, I still don't really consider myself an author because it was just a chapter, but like, it kind of made, I'm an author of a book. And that's something that I never thought would happen. And it was what was really awesome about this book is that I had the opportunity to come up with a bunch of different prompts and kind of push my skills as well. And my work got better in the process. It went from being a little like okay and a little bit unsure to like all of a sudden I realized I improved during the process of this book. Like my work, like the untrained eye wouldn't notice, but I noticed from like the beginning of the project to the last bit of the project, I went from about here to here.
Wow.
And I was sort of blown away by that, and I have proof because it's there, it's in the book. But what's really cool about that too is I've actually had people come up to me and ask me to sign the book, and that's really weird for me because I'm like, I'm just me. Like I'm just here, and I got finished with my talk last week, and I walked out from backstage and immediately just got swamped. And one girl came up with my book, and she goes, I was wondering if you would sign it. Like this girl planned ahead of time to bring the book with her to this conference. And so it's very surreal and it's really weird. Like it's really weird to see it out in like Barnes and Noble and stuff. My aunt came down a few months ago to visit, and I had stopped by Barnes and Noble on my way home from the ice rink, and she and my mom had been out, and mom goes, hey, are you still at Barnes and Noble? And I said, I just got here. What do you need? And then I didn't hear back. And so I walk in, and there's my aunt and my mom standing there.
Aww.
And immediately my aunt goes, where's your book? Where is it? So we went to the back where the art books are, and we finally hunted it down, and I handed it to her, and she goes, all right. And off she walked. She's like, I'm buying it. She walked all the way to the front, and she's like, my niece did this. Of course, like people at Barnes and Noble are like, awesome, cool, that's fantastic.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun, like seeing it make the rounds. And I when it came out, I mailed a copy to my best friend up in New York, and it took her several days to get it because she worked during the day, and so did her boyfriend, and they won't deliver it to their doorstep in New York because they don't have a doorman. And so it took like 5 more days, and she's like, what is it? I'm like, you'll find out. I'm not telling you yet. And when she finally got it, she was like, oh my God.
Yeah, so that's so great. You have such a good support system and so many people that are like rooting for you and so proud of you.
Yeah, I won't, like, I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate that I do have the support system I do.
So do you believe anyone can use art to enrich their life?
I believe so. I mean, look at places like Painting with a Twist. You can go in with no art skills and come out with a painting, and every one of them looks different, but it's your own interpretation. And I feel like, I mean, anyone can go buy a sketchbook, you can buy some pencils, and you can just sit down and just draw, you know? Like, I highly recommend stream of consciousness drawing, where you don't think about what you're drawing. You draw the first thing that comes to your mind, and you just keep drawing. You know, and eventually you just kind of come out with something, but you don't have to have a finished piece.
Right.
But it's one of the best ways to kind of just sit, zone out, and really kind of just relax. You know, but I don't feel like you don't need to go to art school to be able to do this. I know a ton of people that didn't go to art school and are now artists for a living. Sorry, my dog decided he's under my desk now, and he's trying to make a bed, and I just saw his little butt going by.
He can be in the interview too.
He could. I don't know. Come here, buddy. Where are you?
Yay, we get to meet him.
He's not happy right now. He's doing everything he can to not move. Here he is.
Oh, hi, buddy.
This is Teddy.
Hi, Teddy.
Okay. He made it into my presentation at Creative South too. He's Mr. Teddy Bear, the director of cuteness.
Oh, he is cute. He's just so mellow.
He is. He's also very tired right now for some reason. He had 5 days at my parents' house with 3 other dogs. So he's like,
Yeah.
I think he's kind of just waiting to have a relaxing day. Oh, hi, baby.
Oh, he just wants to cuddle. Well, Teddy, I only have one more question, so don't worry.
All right, I gotta put you down, baby.
So, what advice, Shauna, would you give somebody who maybe has never done art but is interested in trying? What would be their first steps?
Get some paper, get some pencils. You don't need anything fancy to start. I know a lot of people seem to think that like you need to have the best of everything to start, but just get a number 2 pencil and some computer paper and just start drawing. Give yourself like a prompt, like, hey, I want to draw a dog, and just draw your interpretation of a dog, even if you think it's terrible. Everyone starts somewhere. The work I did 2 years ago is you improve the more you practice. So, and the more you start working, the more you can try different tools, and you can try different leads and different pens, and like I have a ridiculous collection of stuff because I just like trying new things. But I found certain things that I enjoy working with and I enjoy using because it works better for me. Like I can't use a smooth paper. I have to have a paper that's a little grittier because I just don't like how the pencil feels on smooth paper. But that's a personal preference. Like I can do what I do on anything because the skills are there. And that's really, having good tools isn't going to make you a better artist. Like just take a number 2 pencil and paper and just start drawing. Just make lines and just let go and don't think about it.
I love that. Yeah, that's so true. You don't need to go buy a bunch of expensive stuff to start it. So that's great.
Yeah. Like people see the Cintiq and they're like, well, if I get the Cintiq, is that going to make me a better artist? Well, no, if you don't have the skills, without the Cintiq, like you're not going to have the skills with the Cintiq.
Right.
The equipment the equipment makes it a little bit easier, but it doesn't make you an artist.
Right.
It's the ideas and it's the practice that make you an artist.
Oh, well, I've had so much fun getting to know you, and thank you, Shauna, for all your tips and your tricks and just sharing your knowledge with us. It's been great.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
Oh, well, I appreciate you, and we will see you again. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.